Watch this. No way!
Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Cookie Jar Golf Podcast.
That's my line. What's going on?
Well, I'm going to host. I've decided I'm going to host. So we are in the car on the way back from the LIV golf event, the Friday, the second day of the LIV series. And yeah, thought it would be the opportune moment to knock out a bit of a podcast. I thought it'd be really cool just to try and land a bit of our sort of maybe first impressions, having watched the broadcast on Thursday and then been to the event today. I thought it'd be useful just to maybe sort of document some of that. Thomas, before we get into it, how are you?
Hello, Sam. You didn't introduce me. I'm fine, thank you. It's not often you get to pod live from a car, so God knows how this is going to sound, but it's a first. But we're going to give it a crack. We've got a few things we're going to cover, and I think first and foremost, I've had quite a good day.
Yeah, I think it's been really nice. I mean, look, the sun's been out. It's probably one of the best days of British summer we've had so far this year. I think just a little bit of tiny housekeeping before we get into this. I want to set a little bit of context around what we're not going to talk about.
Some ground rules.
Yeah, so this is like a huge, all-encompassing subject, isn't it? Let's face it. So, you know, there's loads of this stuff that is really well documented, and frankly, I don't really want to get into it. So, one, Cookie Jar is not a politics show. I do not want to have a long, protracted debate about Saudi investment fund. There all of a sudden seems to be a whole world of experts now out there on human rights abuses and all that sort of stuff that, you know, frankly, that it's a nuanced subject that I don't want to get into. I don't want to get into the morality of players' decisions to play on the tour. I don't want to get into tour announcements. Like, let's face it, they're out there. You can see what's happened. You know, the rest is left for speculation as far as I'm concerned. And I don't want to talk about Alan Shipnuck.
Is there anything left to talk about?
We might talk about Alan Shipnuck.
Okay.
So I think it'd be cool to cover the event. So I want to talk about the event, the format, the whole concept of things like a shotgun start, the team aspect, you know, what it's like to attend it as a spectator, what the broadcast's been like, you know, what's the field been like, course setup, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think in terms of an event, I think it was for something that is a pilot, essentially, is what it is. It's the first of its kind, not like the first ever shotgun start or anything like that, but it's a new venture. And I think as an event, I think they've done a pretty good job of starting off. There was some pretty needless spending. I think that's fair to say. I mean, we were debating what was gonna start the thing, like with a klaxon or a shotgun, and it was just like an RAF flyby.
Yeah, that was insane.
So
like, I was not ready for that. Like, I think we'd expected that maybe the brass band was going to come out and play, but when you saw 6, you know, pseudo Spitfires coming out with, you know, doing a double lap of the golf course, and you know, it was insane. I mean, I've got a few bullet points, but before we get into it, it is remarkable what you can achieve in 8 weeks with unlimited resource. Yeah,
I mean, you would have thought from the state of that today, I think you would have thought that infrastructure and that event had been running for years, because it was, to all intents and purposes, as far as everything that I experienced, it was pretty seamless.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think the whole thing, I mean, look, you know, just, you know, we will come to broadcasting, we'll come to the fan experience, but that, be under no illusions, I got the sense there today, I watched it yesterday, I felt like these guys pulled it off.
Yeah, I think so.
You know,
I think it was...
It must be a huge punt to be able to bring players of that caliber and put on an event, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's just really, I mean, it's really basic stuff, like parking your car and getting to the golf course. Completely seamless. It's just there, you park. Took 5 minutes to park. It's all really
shuttle
easy.
Buses there.
You just jump on double-decker buses. There's 20, 30 double-decker buses ready to go. 10 minutes in the double-decker bus. You land, show your ticket, you walk through. and you're there. It was all straight in the fan zone. The first thing you see, fan zone, putting green. Players are putting out already 2 hours before the shot
I
can
agree.
start.
Like the whole thing's,
It was
good.
very good.
So I think the high-level summary is, I enjoyed the experience visiting today. I enjoyed the broadcast as well. But we want to pick into it. There's some specific topics that I think are going to help guide the discussion. The few things I've written down are things like, the concept of teams, the format, the concept of a shotgun star, be it the broadcast. I want to kick it off with teams, because teams is without doubt like one of the big defining features of what it is. And I think, PGA Tour golf for a number of years is difficult to follow. There's not a real great narrative. We always talk about this thing around F1 and stuff, and I cringe when I think about golf becoming F1, but it has a place, I think, to a certain extent. Just kick us off, Tom. Who's your team?
I'm Fireballs till I die. So I decided on the way down.
On the way down?
Yeah, Fireballs, man and boy.
No,
so,
I was Niblix from the draft.
From the draft
one.
onwards, were you? No, well, I didn't have a team, so I decided on the way down that I'm going to get a pretty substantial forearm tattoo. A fireball. The Fireball, so led by Sergio. I just feel like it just resonates with me highly.
Bruce told us
is a talk guy.
Yeah,
he's
team
a talk
talk
guy.
Yeah.
Team talk. He's a big talk guy. And you're Niblix.
I'm Niblix. They've had a real tough couple of days.
Yeah.
I think there's room for them to bring it around.
Well, nobody wants like a glory hunter. You don't want to be like just supporting Man City because they're winning. You picked your team. You got to live and die by it now.
You can't switch your team now. I've got. Do you think there will come an age with the team aspect of this where we might start to see golf hooliganism?
I think so, yeah. Like, ooh, yeah, giving it the, just having a crack at everybody, and maybe just more chanting, like kind of Ryder Cup chanting, but just not that once the biannual event. It's kind of like, I'm gonna get nailed into this guy straight off, and it'd be interesting to see where the rivalries go. Like, I think, what is it, Team Punch? I mean, they are just bound to get into a full-on war with Niblix. It's just going to be something that happens. Yeah.
Just you can see, it's going to take a long time for that sort of stuff to bed in.
But
like, my honest take is like those teams, those logos. I'm going to put it out there. They're not fit for purpose yet. Like they've got some evolving to do.
Yeah,
right?
I think so. And I am obviously Fireballs till I die, but I think they are going to need to do a lot of work to try and incorporate the team aspect of it all. Because I think it's in the Ryder Cup, it's just there, isn't it?
It's easy, you can get behind
it's a continent versus a continent. Well, it's not a continent versus a continent. It's continent versus a country, but it's fairly straightforward. It's my team versus your team, and we're going to scrap it out to see which team wins.
What do you mean it's a continent versus a country?
It's Europe versus the United States. It's not Europe versus North America. Like Canada would be.
Okay. Yeah. Correct.
Do you want to walk that one back?
I'll walk that one back.
Okay, good. But it's... Yeah, I think at the moment I'm struggling to see how members of the Fireballs are really like bigging each other up and making that team environment better. I'm obviously not seeing behind the curtains, but it doesn't strike me as something that's going to be easy to do. I don't know whether they're going to like try and put different formats in.
I think this stuff is going to take time.
Yeah.
Like I think people talk about, in due course, will it be the Callaway Mavericks or the Titleist Niblix,
Yeah.
And will that be and then all of a sudden the draft will become quite a big thing, and like our American audience will have a much better view of how the draft becomes a central part of their sports. It's not really stuff that's big in the UK. We obviously have things like transfer windows. I find it all really bizarre to get my head around, if I'm being brutally honest, because it's so far away from the traditional aspect of the game that I think we enjoy. But yeah, look, I think it's quite clear that there's a market for a clearer narrative to follow in the sport. The one thing they are doing this week is they are competing for a hell of a lot of money, and that team game is still significant through this weekend.
So can you talk me through that financial aspect of the team thing?
Look, you're putting me on the spot on specifics, and I wish I had the numbers to hand, but first place team prize for this event is really significant. We're talking like an extra Miller player if they get that done. So then. It's really significant money. I mean, the whole thing does kind of get lost in the millions, I think. Whereas it's quite easy when you watch a PGA Tour event, you think, well, that player's just pocketed, 1.6 million. Second place is going home with 750,000, and it tails off from there. All of a sudden, the numbers start to lose relevance when you're talking about relativity, rather, when you're talking about $200 million signing on bonuses. But I think the team format of having the best 2 scores from days 1 and day 2, and then having 3 from 4 to count the last day, I think that
so some of our listeners may not know this. You just breezed past that. So what is it? So there's
4 players in a team. 4 in a team. In day 1, they will take the best 2 scores from that team.
Okay, so kind of pro-am format, but like pro format.
Yeah, for the round. And the same for day 2. And then round 3, because obviously everything's 54 holes. LIV is Roman numerals, LIV, 54. Everything, interestingly, is a multiple of 12, I believe. Maybe not. No, that can't be right. 54 is not a multiple of 12.
That's staying in the pod.
Yeah. A couple of bloopers early doors there. And then three players on the third round. I think they're playing for a very significant sum of money, and I think that carries significance for the players. The issue is, how does that start to carry significance for the viewer? At the moment, it's not there. I would personally think it'd be really interesting if they started to really push the format on the team stuff and make it, almost like blood sims, like it's the worst 2 scores from the team. I think that would be quite interesting. We'll talk about the broadcast shortly, but the way they're broadcasting it by showing loads of different players throughout the leaderboard rather than the top 5 means that all of a sudden, when you see the guys, I don't know, Andy Ogletree at 14 over, all of a sudden that's carrying a bit more significance.
Yeah, because it's going to, it's not at the moment. It's not going towards anything because he's not really in. He's not going to make a ton of money, and he's not really contributed to his team score.
But you could take the worst scores.
I don't think. Well, you could. Of course, you could. But I don't think any tour is in the market for highlighting bad stuff.
But it'd be exciting.
Yeah, it'd be really good. Exciting. But it's something you do as a laugh, just to show how
probably
shit
not
your pals are when you go on
16 mil,
golf tour. But I don't think they're going to do it on the actual tour. And I do think it's got a long way to go with the team thing. But I think what has been highlighted, I don't know, we're not going into politics, but this is just comparison stuff. What has definitely been highlighted is there is a thirst for something other than 72-hole stroke play, and at least they're trying. And I think what's going to go on here is there is going to be a period of experimentation, and sooner or later they'll fall on a format that they consider that works, and then
it's
they'll
wide
go with
open to iteration, isn't it?
Yeah,
you can iterate with this now. I think we talked about in the past the PGA Tour not embracing new formats and being relentless in sticking to largely 72-hole stroke play tournaments over 4 days over a really long broadcasting window. Just on that then, so 54 holes shotgun start. Talk to me. How did that work for you? Both as a broadcast and
as an
viewer experience on the ground.
Being there, it was a bit strange, really, because first of all, range space suddenly becomes a premium, because when you're doing normal staggered start,
yeah, that's fair.
People are dripping onto the range, and you can kind of. Well, I did notice that there were some people queuing to go on the range today. So there's range space becomes. You need to be able to, you need to be able to get everybody out on the range because they're all trying to get out at the same time.
With trackmans,
and everything that comes with that, And there were people queuing to get on the range today. Nothing really against Centurion because they've, like you said, they've had 8 weeks to get this together, and I've never seen Centurion before, and I actually thought as a tournament course it was pretty good. There's good vantage points. It was perfectly fine to walk around and watch golf. But the shotgun start was interesting because you're watching them warm up, you're watching them at the range, they're hitting balls, they're putting, they're chipping, but they're all kind of trying to do it around each other, and then all of a sudden it comes over the tannoy.
That's not my problem,
It's not your
That's not my problem.
Of course it's not your problem, but it all comes over the tannoy then, can all players get to staging area A and B, and they're trying to coordinate every single player to get to a thing. So this all happened kind of half an hour before the balls were hit. So at half an hour before the first balls are hit, we basically decide that we need to go somewhere.
Yeah.
To where are we going to go to watch the golf? Because you can go to any hole in the golf course. So,
but it is helpfully laid out for you. This is the groups, and this is where they're teeing off from.
yeah, it was all very straightforward.
That's a really good way to plan the first few holes that you're going to watch.
Super straightforward, and takes a lot of the stress off the first tee. So you can just think, all right, well, I'm going to set up shop. We decided to walk halfway down 4. That's what we decided to do.
We want to see Blandy, Larathbel, and
we watched
Newstays.
Friend of the pod, Richard
Phil
Bland.
waved at me.
Phil
from a
waved
London taxi, he waved at me.
I don't think he knew who you were.
I think he saw the cookie jar top.
He was probably waving at our friend's son, to be fair.
It was like a sort of a royal
regal
wave, wasn't it?
It was very regal. Yeah.
But apparently, if you went to the third tee where teeing off, Greg was doing a ceremonial piece there. Tim Lobb, who we call it with on the sidelines, only about 20 minutes later.
Another
he was
friend of the
giving
pod.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. No, I thought the shotgun start thing works okay on the ground as a spectator. Everyone's out on the course. Everyone's back into the fan zone at the end. There's a clearer structure to it. It doesn't feel like you're going for 2 or 3 hours and then moseying off.
Yes, but I will add, and this is digressing slightly, I didn't think that any of it led to an increased pace of play. Now, I'm certain it led to an increased pace of broadcast, but it was still a 5-hour round, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, 4 and 3/4. I think yesterday when I watched. The one thing, I mean, look, I don't watch a huge amount of professional golf live. We don't go to that many events. But the one thing that's really stark is the pace on the greens. It's glacial. We were talking. They're not waiting on shots.
Yeah,
I didn't know. I noticed these guys weren't waiting on groups.
No, they all just take a long time.
Yeah,
but we were talking, a real. If they really want to push the boat out and make it more innovative, and things like cricket's done a great job with the short formats and trying to introduce different things. With the 100 ball and the 2020 and all the things they've introduced over the last few years. We were talking on the way around. I think if they really wanted to be innovative,
push them to 3.5 hours.
Well, yeah, you just put them on the shot clock. Every shot has like basketball. As once you get possession of the ball, you've got to get it in the hoop within X amount of seconds. Sorry, American people, I don't know what it is. X amount of seconds. Otherwise,
you don't run a basketball podcast, do you?
No, I don't run a basketball podcast at all. But if it's your turn to play, you should have 90 seconds to hit the ball.
It's kind of like what I was saying about the team dynamic, wasn't I? That's what I was saying about the team dynamic, trying to push the envelope a little bit with it. I think you've already got something on your hands that feels unique and different. It's like push it harder. Yeah, you could push it to 3.5.
Really hard.
I do think 3 hours would be too fast to play Centurion because there's quite a bit of green to tee and there's it's a hilly golf course and there's a bit of walking. But I don't think 3.5 hours would massively improve the spectator experience and the viewer experience again.
But do you think that perhaps there is a sweet spot that they need to hit in terms of if they get it down to 3.5 hours, and because it's now shotgun start, the whole broadcast is done in 4.5 hours, is that now a problem in terms of later down the line getting an advertising and sponsorship?
I don't know. I don't know about the mechanics of this work. As far as I'm concerned, Premier League football's not trying to push itself out to 4.5 hours, is it? So,
arguably,
but it's a more concentrated hit, and we'll come on to the broadcasting shortly. I think personally, my take would be shotgun start worked really well for the broadcasting. It was good for the fan experience.
I'm going to push back on that for the broadcasting a little bit. I found it quite difficult when I watched it yesterday on the website. When I watched it at the website yesterday, I found it quite difficult to kind of keep track of, because they kind of moved it all around, like you said. So you weren't watching the leaders like you used to watching.
And then thinking they're coming into 17. This is a tricky par 3. They could drop a shot.
Yeah, now they're coming into 4. What does 4 look like? I can't remember seeing 4. I'm unsold on the watching it online or on TV. It wasn't on TV, but online. But I'm unsold from a broadcasting point of view. I think it works good for the spectator. I found that worked fine for me.
Yeah.
Just to push back
I think the way
bit.
it'll work, though, and they did it on day 2, is the leaders then go out hole 1, and then it comes back. So the shotgun start then runs in leader order. So therefore, you do get a bit of that flow. But then weirdly, you actually have the front man going into a certain stretch first, whereas we're used to watching maybe a guy who's 2 or 3 shots back, make a charge on a par 5. Do they need? And then when the guy who's 2 shots behind
and
makes
also,
eagle, it's like, oh, well, he's got to make eagle.
I
to
suppose
hold
by doing
the
that,
gap, you know,
by stacking it like that, you're reducing the opportunity for some randomer to finish on the 7th hole.
Yeah,
you know, you're looking at if they go out in what are they going out in 3 balls? Yeah, so if they go out in 3 balls, you're looking at probably it's going to happen on 18, 17, 16. Yeah, that's worst case scenario. That's where they're going to finish. The 16 would be like the last hole they played, maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's still got lots of teething to get through, I think.
It's a strange one, isn't it? It is a strange one because I think some of this is sinking in. Like the one thing I will say, which we probably didn't say in the intro, is just what a weird moment it is in professional golf. I think that point is fairly well understood. By the way, social media has been lit up. You know, seeing stuff like just the announcements and all that kind of stuff. It's like we are at a crazy moment in the professional sport. So, and after 2 days having watched it and visited, it's like I still don't really know how I feel about it, but we're trying to sort of piece it together.
I actually feel, it's mental, and it's so far away from anything that we've ever seen before, which is the peculiar part of it all. It's just like, it's just so different. It's cool for us because we don't get tons of events here in the UK. So it was nice to have an event that we could go to that has the likes of Phil Mickelson and Dustin Johnson, and we have the opportunity to watch these guys play outside of a major, outside of the Scottish Open, which is a million miles away, and outside of the British Masters, which doesn't really get a huge amount of top-end Americans. You get Billy Horschel, and you don't often see
top flight
Americans over there. So it was nice that we had the opportunity to do that. But it just feels so weird.
It does have a slightly alien character, but the intent is a good one. Like, it's not a bad event. Like, it's a good event. It's good fun to go to. It's good to see. Well, you touched on it there, fans. So one of the questions we've had coming into us quite a bit is how many people have paid for a ticket versus how many people have had them on. Like, I didn't realise, for example, that the local area had been given like an allowance of tickets. There's been quite a bit of free passes.
Which
and stuff.
I think that's fairly, from what I understood. I was chatting to some of the guys that were involved with it today, and I think that's a fairly common practice. If you're in the area,
you get given an allocation.
You can get access to some tickets if you like, kind of like as a thank you, because we're gonna.
Well, I think by and large, when you look at Craig David playing a set at 9 o'clock this evening, fan zones with God knows how much stuff going on.
There was tons. The fan zone. We should probably talk about the fan zone. Actually, I thought that was an impressive place.
It was good.
So, like, in terms of you go there, and
there's a lot of growing the game stuff in there.
Well, it's difficult to talk about because we don't get to go to a PGA Tour event, so I don't know what their fan zones are like. But you go in. There was tons of stuff for kids. There was soft play. There was bunker areas with coaches. There was swing coaching areas.
Yeah, but like the music scene, it was quite cool. There was loads of craft beer kicking around, loads of really good craft beer.
Loads of good independent food outlets.
Food was great. Food was really good.
Food was amazing.
I would say
really
the fan zone was so much better than... I mean, I've actually been to a few British Masters. I've always quite enjoyed them because they tend to be, in things at like Walton Heath and Hillside and stuff, and they're nice courses to see. But the fan experience, it's really budget.
Well, this is the thing that's just so strange, because with only having 8 weeks to prepare for this tournament, it genuinely felt like there was no stone left unturned.
No, it was good. Even the buses clean. They got music playing. Like, it was all...
Yeah, beats going.
Yeah, beats.
And
beats on the transfers in the car park. And I think that was the little touches where I thought, do you know what? They've really gone out here. And it's really easy to chastise them for some pretty heinous team logos, or
they are
absolutely heinous. Yeah, let's not give them a free pass.
The fireballs. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
You're a fireball.
I am a fireball till I die. But it is ridiculous.
I'm a Niblick. I actually don't mind the Niblick logo for what it's worth. The Cleeks logo is a straight rip off the cookie jar. We've had a lot of people message about that. Yeah. Anyway, we digress. The fan experience, the fan zone was cool. Like, it was... and things like the stadia, there wasn't loads of stadia knocking around, but where there were stands, there was little craft beer options and soft drinks and barbecues going, and you
Hang
could
on,
get.
I'm going to back. I've got to push back there. There was no soft drinks.
True,
It was
it's
really
true.
hard to find a water.
Yeah.
Beer you could get coming out
Beer
your
and gin and
ears.
tonics, but yeah, it was like
Soft
it was
drinks are
like being in the
really
desert.
hard.
To be fair, for water, like I was feeling a bit under the weather, and I really wanted water. And we got to the
You had to do with it.
only drink station out on the thing, and it was like, yeah, it's craft beer
You had to have
or
vodka rhubarb.
which was actually a delight. To be fair, it was like a White Claw. It was really nice.
Other vodka rhubarbs are available.
I really enjoyed that actually. But yeah, I mean, I was feeling rough, and I was just like, I'm desperate for some water. Felt like I was in the Sahara. Yeah, fan zone, fan experience.
Yeah, it was
sick.
cool.
Volume of fans.
Now this
which
is an
I
interesting
think
one.
is controversially, but you know that this principle applies pretty much 90% of the time in golf, and I hate to say it, you know, and at the risk of coming off like a dick.
Which you are going to come off like a dick.
I don't know how to position this. People can wreck places. When there are too many people, it does
Okay.
wreck the experience. Now, we all want to see DJ and Mickelson play. They paired them together. I don't know whether that was a mistake or not. Question mark.
I think they could have spread the spectators.
They could have spread the love
smidge.
there so much more, because it was like one heavily concentrated group, which was still only, for context, too deep. We're not talking any more than two
No.
deep on where they're playing their shot from. But that was the busier group. We're watching Charles Schwartzel, you know,
Two groups behind the leaders.
yeah, and
that's
and
two groups behind
3-4
Mickelson
shots
and
clear with Duplessis and Scott Vincent. You know, there was literally no one watching them.
No.
Like, I followed a few holes with Chase Koepka with his mum. Like, it was mental.
We can neither confirm nor deny it was his mum, but we did some heavy googling, stood next to this lady, and we
I'm
were
certain it was
almost
Chase
certain it was
Koepka's
Chase Koepka's mum.
I'm almost certain. But
no.
you know, they're like that's kind of what you're dealing with. There's literally Laurie Cantor, Chase Koepka, and Oliver Beckett. It's like
So-
there's no one watching that group.
Just for a little bit of
It's a great
just a little bit
experience.
of context of kind of what happened is that we started on 4, we wandered down. DJ and Phil started on 3, so we started at 4, watched Bland, watched them play 4, we went through to watch them hit 5, and then we said we'll stay on the tee box of 5, we'll watch DJ and Phil come through, which we did. And then it was like, okay, what do we do now? Okay, well, we'll just hang around. 14 was next to us. Let's go hang around 14, watch Westwood and Poulter come up there. Okay, what are we going to do now? And then we just kind of like walking across then, and there was nobody on 5, and up walks Charles Schwartzel, who's like leading the tournament by 2.
Suave.
And
Suave, man.
It was
Beautiful
cool.
torp turn-ups.
Some cool
really
shoes.
nice leather
Some
soles,
really cool
FootJoys,
shoes.
and artisan blades. His irons were
But he's wonders. He's like
the most beautiful
you
things
said
I've
to me,
ever
he's like,
seen.
let's hang around this tee box. Charles Schwartzel's coming up. He's leading. And
It's
I
like
was
the
like,
first
how do
time
you
I
know?
heard the Beatles, those irons. They were just beautiful.
I wept. I was like,
I cried.
I was like, how do you know Charles Schwartzel's coming? He was like, well, look behind you. And they're good as gold. There's just Charles Schwartzel, like just right next to us. It's like, oh, cool. Well, let's watch this. He hits off, hits the green, beautiful shot. So, well, should we just wander down and see this? Yeah, okay. No one else is here. We watched him play 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and there was
then we got
probably
sidetracked on
another
the vodka rhubarb.
40. There's probably 40 people that were doing the same as us.
Yeah, no more. Like, genuinely no more. And now that experience is great. Now, that is not commercially viable product for the value that we're talking about with the fan zone and all that sort of stuff.
But it was
wasn't empty
amazing
in
to
the fan
see.
zone.
It was
but
amazing
It was
to see
really
him
cool.
build around.
I just, I hate it. The worst moment of that for me was when DJ played his shot on 5, the par 3.
Yeah.
And we'd watched Blandy's group come through, and that was cool. And then all of a sudden, you've just got elbows in your ribs, and you've
Yeah.
got people like leaning over with an iPhone. It's like
The iPhone
dude,
life is weird. What's
it's
going on
ridiculous.
there?
There's literally professional camera crews there. Just sit and enjoy it. Like, you're never going to watch this back. I saw one guy holding a camera up above people's heads when Poulter was putting for over 90 seconds. His arms were physically
He was
shaking.
shaking, wasn't
They
he?
were physically shaking. He was exhausted. He was struggling to keep the camera, but he was hell-bent on recording everything. He's never going to watch that again.
Well, he might watch it. But what's the point of it? It's just, the only point of it is to say you were there.
Yeah.
Because if you want a good picture of Poulter putting on, I'm sure you could Google Poulter putting on 14 and get a great picture of it.
Yeah. Strange.
Very
Yeah.
iPhone life is weird. Like the picture, it was
We
just
digress.
everywhere. We are digressing.
But I do think the low number of fans there contributed to the experience of player proximity massively heightened it there. The fact that there was, and the guys were just you could hear what they were talking about. There wasn't like crowds around. the whole thing felt quite intimate, and that was nice.
And Vincent could hit a ball as well.
Vincent smokes it.
Yeah,
absolutely smokes it.
Yeah, it was a bit of breeze up there.
His bag is absolutely heinous, by the way. It's got that elite grips player bag. It's mental. Charles Schwartzel was genuinely the suavest man I think I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was cool. And just I'm sure that everybody listening to this podcast knows this, but just for a bit of reference, he's a major winner. We're walking alongside a major winner in the most lucrative tournament in golf history. Mm-hmm. He's leading by 2 shots, and no one was walking it with us. And then, like 2 groups ahead, you're just witnessing, like, in some of the pinch points, the scrum that was going on, but like with people trying to watch Mickelson and DJ hit balls. It was like, I didn't want to be part of that.
Crazy. I've got 2 questions for you. Money, more exciting?
No.
Shame, though, isn't it? Because I think that's where the PGA could create that construct on exactly the same revenues and products and the infrastructure they have today.
Let me.
But it's taken
let's talk a little bit.
That money to.
Let's talk a little bit. I don't know what you call. I mean, it's still got to be moving day, I assume. I don't know what
it was. Moving day.
Well, it's now only 3 days, so
Friday was moving day.
Yeah, but it could also be.
There wasn't much movement either.
Whatever
actually.
They call Saturday. But like
Schwartzel just moved on,
just powered on, just marched on forward. But
he played great.
Will it be more interesting tomorrow? Will the money make it more interesting tomorrow when someone's going down whatever hole they're going down? Not maybe 18, maybe 17, maybe 16. Who knows? Shaking in their boots because they're about to win $4.5 million. Like that.
No, I don't. I think the simple answer to your question is no. You can't buy heritage. You can't buy. The 150th Open in July is going to be incredible to see who lifts the claret jug. That you can't replicate that on event number 1. That's just the fact of the matter.
Well, I'm not saying.
But the FedEx has been going for decades.
You didn't ask about heritage. You asked about money.
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. And I think the money doesn't make it more exciting, but the heritage and the fact that whether it's the US Open or the Open or the Masters, that really gets you
but
up.
It's
and you
never
just can't create
it's never going to have that. It's never going to get that. So, what can it do? Well, it can throw money at it, and without money, they wouldn't have the players. So,
the money is almost a means to an end. But I can guarantee it makes it exciting for the players. I mean, to your point about turn up and whack.
Well, interestingly, who is
those
it?
Guys
we watched someone come down. What must have been 16 today, and they put it. I can't remember who it was, but they put it within like a yard of the water, and it was basically stood on the sleepers.
Oh, Duplessis.
Duplessis was it?
Yeah.
Okay, so Duplessis is like a yard off, feet dangling on the sleepers.
Place, I think.
Well, I said to him, I think someone around me said he's going to take a drop. I was like, that drop shot, if he took a drop shot there, could be worth $1 million. I mean, that one drop shot.
Yeah, and that context is lost, I think, because it's just all so abstract what we're looking at.
Even if he was in last, right, and he was fighting it out for last place, that drop shot could be worth like 80 grand or 100 grand. It's like,
these are just like phenomenal sums of money. I do think, because the second question was around the field and the nature of that field, and I would agree it's a bit of a hodgepodge of a field, isn't it? If we're going to be frank,
it's a smorgasbord.
It is.
I'd say
smorgasbord. A term I've not been able to get into the film narrations, but one that you've loaded into the pod. I think it is. But is that a bad thing? Do you know?
I don't think it'd be a bad thing if the lesser known smorgas of the board were competing at the top,
which they are.
Charles Schwartzel's a major winner, but
but you've got other players like Scott Vincent is not in the running for winning, £2 million at a weekend regularly, and now all of a sudden he's right there. It's like, okay, there's a bit more work to do perhaps, but the fact
if these people are going toe to toe with Mickelson and DJ, and they really take them down the line and prove that they should be there, then it's absolutely brilliant for the game. What is really not good for it is if the lesser known players end up coming in dead last week in, week out. That
no, I agree, but I
certainly
don't
becomes a problem.
actually think that is what's going to happen. It's certainly not the way the leaderboard's looking at the moment. Yeah,
No.
okay, you would expect naturally. I mean, when DJ's gone and played in things like the Saudi International, he's won that at a canter before, and that wasn't what we were watching today. So I actually think, in a really weird way, having a mishmash of field of players that are, going out towards 500th OWGR and beyond, and some really abstract names, coupled with some big headliners, it almost makes it a little bit bit more exciting. Like, everyone wants to root for an underdog, don't they?
Yeah.
I don't know.
They do. But the reality is, this is a money-making venture, and if it gets big enough, it won't be about growing the game or having a smorgasbord. It'll be about the top 48 players in the world.
100%.
So,
yeah, their goal is not to have
exactly.
Andy Ogletree as their star, and I'm sure that's not been harsh on Andy Ogletree, but he's
not having the best few days so far.
No.
So, yeah, I think the goal is to have the top 48 players in the world to do that. So, yes, I agree with you. At the moment, it's cool, but I don't think that's their goal, is to make it cool and inclusive. Just
okay.
My
so
two-penner.
Before we sort of close this chapter on the second day of the LIV Golf series, last question is about course and setup.
I wanted to talk about the course. Yeah.
Can we add in the £2 million overseeding program they did 4 weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean,
that'll really bring on the golf
that'll
course.
turbocharge any golf course if you can throw 2 million quid at it 4 weeks before, just to make sure that it's. And it was
pure.
Yeah, I mean, the nick was just absurd.
Friend of the pod, Tim Lobb, he was out with the agronomy team this morning on a little course walk and told us, they're running at 12.5. You don't get 12.5.
You don't get in Britain.
In a pretty average spring and summer that we've had so far, you don't get 12.5 unless you've pumped some serious investment into those surfaces.
You just don't get that in Britain, really. I know it's fairly common for the...
You've got to push them to the absolute edge, and they didn't even look like they were on the edge of the greens.
No, the greens look pure. It was clear, I'm probably going to be shot down for this, but it was fairly clear to me that the range had been moved from what looked like its normal position, which is probably where the fan zone was, and they moved it to the sort of front edge of the clubhouse. And they'd obviously just relayed the turf of the range as well.
Yeah.
And it was so pure.
It was so pure, it was a joke.
It was absolutely just the most pristine turf I've ever seen. And you could get really close. I mean, it had this weird jagged edge to the range. So, like, where we were stood, whoever was on the extreme left of the range were just clipping irons over our head.
Yeah.
Like, directly over our head. And really, something that would put the fear of God into me, but they were just like, no problem whatsoever. They were just clipping away. But it was... I
thought the course setup was good. Yeah, conditioning course was amazing, in fairness.
One of the best conditioned golf courses. Even the rough, I thought it was managed very well. We're walking through what looked like fescue rough, and it's thin enough that you could find a ball. It was... long enough that this wonderful wavy definition, as the wind is coming through, the rough is waving in the wind. It all looked.
And look, obviously
brilliant.
Going out and watching the holes and you're seeing the shots they happen to play, if there's a criticism, it is a touch narrow. The greens are quite big. It's a little one-dimensional. Centurion as a golf course, not sure if you're going to try and take this product and make it exciting.
It's a tournament course, isn't it?
Yeah, but I think you can probably push it to. I think. As this series evolves, it's like, well, this is exactly where you want to see things played on courses that are perhaps, exciting, or places you wouldn't see differently, or something that feels different or looks different. I don't know. It's not quite it kind of is a tournament cookie cutter course. It's a natural place for them to have their event there, obviously with, things like the Aramco that goes on there anyway regularly.
I think
the setup of it was cool. Like,
I think
the only thing I would say is, like, there's a few tee boxes where I thought, well, given this is 54 hole and you want variation to par and you want excitement, I kind of thought, well, you could shunt some tee boxes forward or move some back.
Push it forward.
No, but like most of them were pushed, like most of the par threes were pushed up to approximately the same distance, I found.
I thought in general, and perhaps I'm just generalising,
it's likely.
But nearly every hole was played one tee box up today.
Yeah. Just a bit arbitrary. But like,
yeah,
the course
it's not like they
setup's
put
great,
any thought
nitpicking.
into like, let's shorten this one, let's lengthen this one. That par 4, I think it was the 9th, which is like playing 490. It's probably a par 5 for the members, I would have thought. 496.
Eight.
Was that 8?
Yeah.
I think it was 9. But it was like playing into the wind. It was monster long. Yeah, it's just...
Seven.
They didn't think...
7.
I'm still thinking it was 9. I'm thinking about 9, definitely. Where they all slotted drive down the middle and we walked alongside them. And Bruce came out with the infamous, that's 20 yards past him, that one.
We're talking about a different golf hole.
No, we are. I'm talking about 9.
Yeah. I'm talking about 7.
But it was, I think it was cool. Like, it was, there was no thought to the conditions of thought, let's push this one up, let's make this one longer. But I think that's a fairly generic thing across all tour events. They don't think a huge amount about anything.
But no, look, the course was set up good, to be fair. I would personally think there's scope to push it to more interesting venues.
I
Long term.
thought Centurion was better than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it was interesting.
It was so immaculate. You were walking there thinking, like, I would actually love to dust off a 7-iron here and just smoke one off the turf.
And it wasn't. That was a good word. It was pristine, wasn't it? You know, it was just like... And there were some fairly interesting golf holes. You know, there was some really nice tree-lined holes, and then it gets out into the sort of... what I would say my architectural jargon. It was quite fieldy. But I thought it looked quite interesting, and I wasn't expecting it to look quite interesting. But I thought, you know, I know we weren't going to talk about politics, but having a Saudi owner, I imagine they'll go back to Centurion. I don't think it's getting off that rotation anytime soon, but I still thought it looked quite good. I enjoyed watching golf there.
Hopefully that's an insightful take on the event itself. I think we wanted to try and leave. It's such a large...
And we didn't even talk about Alan Shipnock.
No. Lord knows
Which
there's
is
enough
good.
of that on Twitter.
If you want to hear about Alan Shipnock, go see Alan Shipnock.
Yeah, and draw your own conclusions from that. Anything else, Thomas?
No, and as the sun is setting on day 2 of the LIV event at Centurion as we're driving home, and I can only apologise for the state of this audio. This is a complete trial, but as with these things, as with all these things, time is of the essence in getting this out, so hopefully it's audible. And
Can I just ask?
yeah,
Because we could do this podcast tomorrow, but we're not. Where are we tomorrow?
tomorrow's a very exciting day. Another friend of the podcast, and he's a friend because he comes quite a lot, but Sander, team member and all-round great guy, Dan Davis, is launching what can only be described as the world's most terrifying golf course. And
So
we're going to
510 yards of sheer terror, RNGC, Royal Norton Golf Club. He's created a 9-hole golf course in his backyard.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, to be fair,
Podcast to follow.
well, yeah, 100%. Like course diaries, story of a golf club. We're going to throw it all at it. So much time for Dan. Such a cool guy. Can't wait to spend some time with him there tomorrow.
He's
a fantastic writer. One of the best storytellers
in golf.
I'm picking him up now because if he's a disaster on the podcast, then.
Well, I'm sure he will be. He's going to be like some savant that just can't speak when he gets to the podcast. But he is a great guy. But he's launching. He's basically designed this golf course in his garden, 500 yards, all par 3s, nothing longer than 65. Course record is held by a +2 handicapper, which is currently.
It's only been open a few weeks, but that's, for context, 12 over par. Plus down's course record. So yeah, I think it's take some ammo and a couple of wedges and see where we go.
We're going to be podding with him tomorrow. We're going to be making a little film about the day, the course, the experience, and everything that Dan Davis has to offer. But that was our 2 penneth on the LIV series, and we did want to keep it politically neutral.
I just don't think that debate needs any more fuel.
No, I don't think so at all.
I didn't let it rage.
It was nothing if not innovative.
Yeah.
So
I think that the only way I can summarise it is we are at an extremely confusing time in the professional game. You know, I think our outlook on the game certainly leans towards maybe slightly more traditionalist than maybe some others. It was different. It wasn't bad different. More chapters to go on it. There's some aspects I really liked.
It's massive as it could be improved.
I'd love to get my hands on those logos.
I think they've gone to Fiverr and gone to the cheapest guy they can get.
It is literally like they've just found Fiverr and just gone. Like, I've got all of those heinous cookie jar logos we got from Fiverr when we set up, and I was like, right, we can't use the tiger silhouette. We're gonna have to get a proper logo now.
Yeah.
And like, some of them are heinous, but they're exactly the sort of things that they were sending to us.
But having said that, with the sheer speed this has all gone through, it's remarkable the thing is even like able to stage an event.
Yeah,
really.
and do you know what? They could just say, oh, look, the team logos are gopping. No one's going to get behind this from day one. It's like, do you know what? Be brave and just go for it. Except that people are going to be like, oh, yeah, okay, Tom and Sam are taking the piss out of Niblix and, you know, fireballs. And
I don't think they'll care what we think.
No, exactly. And it's like, we just stick to it. And it's like, let the product evolve. Well, and I think there's something to be said for that. It is quite bold to go out there and do that sort of stuff.
And like, yeah, we are, you know, we're having a bit of fun with it, but I am going to be a Fireballs guy for the rest of my life. Like,
I'm always going to be Niblix.
You know, and that might be a...
Do I regret the tattoo? Maybe.
That might be a rift for us at some point in the future.
Could be a problem.
You know, but
who knows?
But that's the point of teams, isn't it? That you get this ability to just pick one, and that's my team.
Yeah.
So,
but no, it was cool, and
it's interesting. It was an interesting
fair
day.
play. Like, you know, what we heard from some of the guys we chatted to down there that have helped facilitate the event. 8 weeks to put that together. You know,
it's impressive.
There's
stuff.
a lot of people that put a lot of hard work into that, and I think that in and of itself, I think that definitely takes some applause. It was good going.
Question for you, just to finish it off.
Okay.
Obviously, Phil and DJ, I believe, have signed up for 2 years minimum, or that's
and
just
Bryson
signed up
this afternoon, I believe.
So they've signed up for 2 years. Do you think this has a longevity beyond 2 years?
I think you will naturally see elements change to it quite radically, be it the branding, be it the format, the regularity, the number of events. I think you've got to accept that all bets are off. Will there be a presence of a Saudi Golf League investing in high-ticket, high-profile, big-money events in the game in 3 years' time? Yeah, do you know what? I think there will be. I think, you know, there's quite a bit of investment now. You're not, you know, even, you know, for a very, very wealthy public investment fund, you are quite well committed now. You're both feet.
People don't throw in hundreds of millions for something to fail.
No, you are well committed now at this point. So, you know, I think in that to answer your question, I think you are. So, but time will tell.
You think you do think this is here to stay?
I hope so, and I hope Niblix are, for sure.
Just a Niblix. I really don't care what happens to the league. I don't care what happens to anybody else. As long as the Niblix is still here, I'm okay.
Anyway,
good stuff.
Until then, adios.
Watch this.